Hi, and welcome to Real Life Moms. I'm your host, Lisa Foster, and Real Life Moms love supporting other moms. And this week we are supporting Billy, a mom of 3 girls and the host of Unlock Your Child's Full Potential podcast, where she has conversations with other moms and discusses how to give our children a head start in life and teach them the life skills not taught in school. And this week we're switching things up, as I am going to be Billy's guest on the Unlock Your Child's Full Potential podcast, and we discuss the law of attraction and how to introduce these concepts to our children.
Hi, Lisa. It's wonderful to have you here on the podcast to talk about our children's well-being and our role as parents in helping them unlock their full potential.
Thank you, Billy, for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm just excited about all the work you're doing and putting out there. So thanks for inviting me.
Please give us a little background and tell us about your parenting journey.
Well, my background is I'm a mom and I have 2 teenagers. And honestly, I'm probably weird because I actually love my teens so much. For everything you've heard about teens, it's actually an incredible time. So no worries. And then
awesome to hear that.
I'm also a physical therapist and a craniosacral therapist, so I own my own private practice. And then I have a podcast as well called Real Life Moms. Just like you, I'm trying to connect moms through real conversations. So, on my podcast, I feel that moms have so much incredible knowledge, as you know, and if we can pool everybody's knowledge and learn from each other, then I think we're just so unstoppable. So my podcast is all about giving moms a voice to share that and make sure that we're not alone in that journey.
We were talking earlier about the law of attraction. I am sure many of our listeners are familiar with the philosophy behind it, thanks to the movie The Secret. For those who aren't, could you explain what is the law of attraction and how we can make use of it?
Yeah, it's kind of a really basic, simple idea, honestly, all about like thoughts become things, right? And that if we can think about what we truly, really want and put it out there, then we can kind of create this life that we desire. And it sounds kind of woo, I'll be honest, because I'm originally a New Yorker and I'm skeptic, but I watched The Secret and it just resonated with me, and it totally changed the way I look at things. And so it just brought me on this amazing journey for myself, but then also introducing it to my family. So that's been amazing and so fun.
How did you introduce it to the kids?
Yeah, well, I guess, I think I first had to use it for myself, right? Because you hear this kind of concept, okay, thoughts become things. If I want something, I'll put it out there, right? And people are like, well, why am I not getting it, right? Right. Most people, I think, do it around money. It's like, I want to be a millionaire. And then you're not. And so I think I had to really dig deep into it first before I could even introduce it to my kids. So for me, what happened was I had to really think about what it was about, like if I was putting out, I wanted to be a millionaire, what it was that my core belief was. And honestly, around money, I have a lot of beliefs that aren't so positive. Like, there was a very lack of money growing up. And so I am associated to that. Or maybe money seems showy, or I don't deserve the money. And so if thoughts become things, right? Even though I want the $1 million, but I'm still thinking about all this lack. So I had to really work on that. And what I decided to do was just like a muscle, right? Like I had to think, train my body, my mind to do this. And so I was like, let's start small, just with myself. Let's start small. And what I did was, every morning I would write like a story as what my day was going to be like. I'm going to wake up. It's going to be sunny out. My drive, there'll be no traffic. And I'm going to get a free cup of coffee. And and I would just put little things out there and just try it. And I just have a fun little story to put out there for trying it small. It's a story about me putting out a free cup of coffee. So I put out a free cup of coffee that morning, right? Doesn't seem like a big deal, but at the time, honestly, I was in my lack mentality with money and I didn't want to spend on something, like coffee. But one day we were out driving with my husband and we're like, oh, let's just stop at Starbucks and get a cup of coffee. That morning I had put out, I wanted my free cup of coffee. And we went through Starbucks and I was like, great, let's just share a cup. It'll be great. And my favorite is that mint mocha, peppermint mocha. Oh, I love that so much. I put it out. We go through the drive-through. We said, I'm going to get that peppermint mocha. And the first thing he says was like, oh, we're out of peppermint. And I was like, going right to, oh my God, lack mentality. No, even peppermint, forget about my coffee. And all of a sudden he goes, but because we don't have peppermint, we'll just give you a free cup of coffee and you can choose whatever else you want. And I know that's really simple, but I think it shows like a big thing here because it's not so much that I asked for that cup of coffee. It's more that I could have missed it, right? Like I could have been stuck on, I didn't get my peppermint mocha, like I wanted peppermint, and it could have gone to that in my mindset instead of saying, I wanted a free cup of coffee. I got a free cup of coffee. How many other free cup of coffees am I missing in my life because I say I want something, but I'm focused on that negative thing that I'm not getting, right?
That's so true.
So I was excited and did get my free cup of coffee. So yay. Kind of got me on a path to start more of this in my own life, but also knowing what I want and seeing it when it comes, and being aware. So when you ask, how do I talk to my kids and things about it? Well, first I need to talk to them about what they want, because I don't know about you, but as a parent, like if someone asks you what you want, it gives me a cold sweat. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I want.
We rarely think about it, actually. What do we want?
Exactly. And no one really asks us either. So we kind of lose ourselves. And I think the same with kids too, because think about it, they're told a lot what to do, but they're not always asked what they want to do. So first, I try to get them to learn what they want. And so one of the practices we do, and we do this every year as a big practice, is we make vision boards. We actually will create a vision board, at the end of the year. And I mean, at the beginning of the year. And at the end of the year, we take our old vision boards and we look at them and we say, well, what did we get? We put all these things that we wanted. What did you get? And half the time we have achieved the things that you actually really wanted, which is really cool. And sometimes we look at the things and we say, oh, well, we didn't get those, right? And you say, okay, well, if the law of attraction is that you can get what you want, why didn't we get those? And we kind of look at that. Is that still important to you? Is that something you really just put on there and you didn't really want? Or are we having some beliefs that we need to work on, kind of like my money belief, right? That we need to work on so that we could create what we want. And then we create a new one. We create a new vision board for the new year and we hang it in their rooms. And throughout the year, they go to it, they write on it, they put new wants on it. So I think starting with learning what you want to put out there, I think is huge.
Yes, it's huge. It's not just about the positive thinking. It's about putting in the work too. And yes. At its core, the law of attraction is about shifting your mindset from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. And it's so hard for many of us.
So hard for many of us. I know. And just going with that abundance mindset, like that is something like I feel our kids don't get to experience a lot, especially like in the school systems, right? It feels so competitive all the time to get the best grades, to make the team. It has a very lack mentality. And that is one thing I wish somehow schools could incorporate more, that, you know what, we can all be good. It doesn't have to be just one person being good at something. We can all be good. Like you and I are both doing podcasts for parents. They can both be good. Yeah, there is enough for all. And I think we miss that a lot in definitely the school systems and just in the day-to-day, because there's always a lot of comparing.
A lot. And it's so freeing when you realize that you don't have to compare with everybody, that if someone else is successful, that doesn't mean that you cannot be.
It's so, you said it, it's so freeing. Oh my God. I know, like as a business owner, there was this one saying that like made me just shift everything in my business. And so we have stores called Lowe's and Home Depot, and they are both stores that are huge here in America. They sell exactly the same thing. They're both very successful. And guess what? They're usually located literally next door or across the street from each other.
That's a good example.
Exactly, because there's enough for all. There's enough customers that want the same thing. And there's no fear. There's no competition. I love that so much. That shifted everything in my own business practice too.
Any other suggestions, action points to start the kids? Like a gratitude journal or visualizations? Do you do any of those with your kids?
So visualizations are a big one for us. For instance, like I love, I don't know who you've like kind of, I know you're into this too, but I love how Bob Proctor, he's one of the gurus out there who says like, be the director in your own movie, right? And I think Joe Dispenza does like mind movies. And I love that concept because our brain, like if we can like think it, even if it hasn't occurred, our whole body feels it, right? So like, for instance, like I used to run marathons, and part of my training, honestly, was visualization before I would actually run the marathon, just to see that I actually completed the marathon. And it really changed how I did. So I'm a big believer in that visualization. And to give you an example how like I would use that for my child, my daughter is, she likes to dance, and she wanted to try out for her dance team. And the dance team is really competitive. And she hadn't been dancing in a while, but that's okay. So she worked really hard. Physically, she was working so hard. And, you know, it's a week-long thing. And then she went to go to tryouts. And the day before tryout, she's like, I cannot land any of my turns. I don't know what it is. I keep falling out of it. There is no way I can make this team if I fall out of my turns. And I was like, well, you've kind of practiced enough. I mean, your body's in pain. I can see that you've practiced enough. So let's try something else. And what she did was, I was like, let's visualize it. Visualize the routines in your head. You nail every single turn, and just do that for the rest of the evening. And so she did. And then before she went to try out, I said to her, let's do one more thing. Let's write down 100 times. I have made the Palms team. That's her dance team. I have made the Palms team. I have made, 100 times. We want to negate any core belief in there that says I'm not good enough. We want to retrain thought, right? That you are a member. You see yourself there. And so she did. She did both of them. She went to tryouts. She came back and she's like, I hit every turn.
Wow.
Coincidence?
No, not really.
Yeah, she ingrained it in her body that she could. And she did it, and she saw herself in it. So I think that is huge and powerful. And then, of course, she came home and like they didn't know who made it, right? And so, of course, any teen is like, oh my God, did I make the team? And I said, you know what? We're not going to put those negative beliefs out there because we don't want to, we don't want thoughts become things. I don't want you worried about if you made it or not. So it's like, instead, let's create a list. You're supposed to get this list sent to you tomorrow morning if you've made the team. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you write down, they had numbers. And so their number would be on the list, not names. And I'm like, write down all the numbers. How many kids do you think will make the team? And she's like, probably 14 to 16. I'm like, great. Write down 16 numbers and put your number in it. And she did. And lo and behold, next day she gets the list. And guess what? Her number was on it.
Great. Amazing story. And to add to that, I used that method too with my girl when she was 6. She had an ear infection, and the doctor said she needs to have surgery in order to avoid severe hearing loss. We decided to give ourselves a month and try something else during this month. My daughter repeated the sentence every day, twice a day, and she truly believed it, by the way. She said, every day my ears get better and better, and I can hear perfectly. In a month, the doctor said that she doesn't need operation anymore. So it really worked. And the good thing is that 3 years later, she still thinks about the power of the mind in this way, that when she truly believes something, it can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that so much. It is powerful. And exactly like what you said, I think the reason, because let's put this out there, right? Because I'm sure there are listeners that will say, that doesn't work. That's just a coincidence or whatever, right? But I think the big thing is that you need to believe it. You really do need to believe it. And the thing about kids is it's much easier for them to believe these types of concepts than it is for adults.
Yes. And when they see it working early in their life, it's easier for them to believe it.
Yeah. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. And I think going back to, why sometimes it doesn't work, those are questions like, there have been instances where my kids really, really, really wanted something and they didn't get it. What I'll say to that is maybe there's a bigger plan, or maybe that wasn't what you thought it was. Maybe the universe knows something we don't. And I do think this has been, sometimes you have to look back to see why. Like, for instance, once again, my daughter tried out for, she wanted to be in this professional theater thing. And it was a show, and she really, really wanted to be in this show with this specific theater. And she tried out and she wanted it. It was on her vision board. I mean, she did all the things and she didn't get it. She could not understand why she didn't get it. And my response was, well, maybe there's a reason that we don't know. There was another opportunity at the same time to try out for another professional theater show. And she did. And she got it. And the thing is, that show that she got was amazing. It was an incredible experience for her. She made amazing friendships. She actually got paid more to do the show. It was a theater that was absolutely gorgeous. And then when she asked her friends that had made the other show how their experience was, they said it was awful because they were struggling. They had late nights. They were fighting within their cast. It was all this stuff that my daughter, if she made that show, would have been miserable. And then I just said, well, let's look back at this, because you wanted something. You still got what you wanted, which was the professional show you wanted to do, but you got a different one, and the universe helped you do that, right? That was a better opportunity for you.
Yeah, such an excellent point. It's not always the way we envision it to be, but it's the best way for us. And another thing that it's important is to watch the words we use. For example, don't say I struggle with maths. Say instead, I find math challenging, but I'm getting better and better. So if we consciously choose the words we use, it helps to send the right message to the universe.
Yeah, because you're using those positive things that you want to attract, right? So versus saying like you're struggling and it's negative, yeah, then you're attracting that. We don't want to attract the struggle, right? And I also think that's what's really hard to do for people. I think that's the hardest part, which I'm still working on, I'll be honest.
My idea is to give our kids a head start so they don't have to struggle when they become our age.
Exactly. And if we're incorporating it now with our kids, we're creating this almost paradigm for them that they believe in it. So they don't have to break down all those negative beliefs that were built up along the way, because they're already starting out positive.
Exactly.
There was a movie also called The Secret, but it's more like an actual film called The Secret, Dare to Dream. And so it's more of a story that, not a documentary. Do you have that out there?
No, I haven't seen it. Maybe we do, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah. What I like about that is it's a really nice way to actually show kids a story, of it, that through like a movie, versus The Secret, the documentary is a little bit much for a kid to watch, right? But this actually gives the same concepts through just a regular story. And what I really liked, and I think what hit home in the movie was, of course, there was like this teenage girl who was kind of having a hard time, and she was just kind of sad. And one of the main characters asks her, well, what do you want? And she's like any other teen, right? Which you'll find out soon, will say, I don't know. I don't know what I want. And he's like, well, if you don't know what you want, how do you know when you get it? because you
Mm.
don't need it. I just love that so much. And I've kind of like pulled that and used that in our home a lot because I have teens. And, my daughter will come home and be sad about something. And I'll be like, oh, well, what's going on? And she'll be like, well, I didn't get invited to a party, whatever it is. I said, okay, well, what do you want? And of course she says, well, I don't know, and I said, well, if you don't know what you want, how do you know when you get it? And she goes, which it just makes her think, because she knows us enough now. We've introduced this enough that we're digging. And she's like, well, actually, what I really want is to be just seen and heard within my friend group. I feel like sometimes I'm just not included. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's what you want. I was like, is there anything that happened today or yesterday that was that? And she's like, well, actually, my friends took me out for lunch because they knew I was a little upset about the party that I wasn't invited to. I'm like, And then she was like, oh, well, I did get what I wanted. I got to be seen and heard in my friend group. And I'm like, yeah. So let's focus on that, because the more we put out those positive emotions and are grateful for the things that we do get, like my friends did include me, I'm so grateful for that, then you'll get more of that, right?
Yes. I do have the practice of writing what I'm grateful for, but I haven't yet introduced it to my children. Do you guys practice it?
I love that. And you're right. I don't. Do I? Yes. My husband and I both have journals that we write down our grateful all the time, but I haven't had my kids do it. But I think that's a good step to do, to write down that you are grateful for these things. I think sometimes we'll point out things like, okay, did any of these things happen to you today that you feel good about? Just like being included with her friend group, and that she's grateful for that. But we don't make it a daily practice. How do you think we should do that? Do you have an idea around that?
I have a gratitude journal just for that. And I have to write 5 things I'm grateful that happened today. And you start noticing that you can be grateful for smaller things. Like I saw the sunset today and it was beautiful. Just little kind gestures that you wouldn't otherwise even notice if you didn't have the practice to write it down. So you start searching throughout the day, what good things happen to me?
And I guess a way you can introduce it, and I guess we've done this and I just forget about it, is like when you're having dinner or something and you're sitting around together, especially when our kids were younger. We haven't done it as much as they're older, but we used to do something called bubble up. And that's something, bubble up means like something that's good that's happened today for you. And so we'd all go around, even the adults would go around the table and say, this is something that was positive. So that could be kind of like looking at something good and being grateful. That's like one way I think you can also introduce it to your kids.
Yeah, we play a game, highlights, lowlights, and funnies. We each share stories from the day. And what I find is that it's most difficult for me to come up with those ideas. The kids have so much fun with it. Everything that it's in the form of a game, it's welcome for the little ones always.
Yes, totally. And once again, good habits. And they're really good conversation starters too, right? So you can all of a sudden have a conversation around something that's good or not so good, I guess. But yeah.
What's your secret for having such an amazing relationship with your teens?
Okay. Well, I'm going to say there's always things, right? But I think our relationship is really good. And I think the biggest thing that I've done, and that my kids will also say, is I listen before I react. So our communication and the door is open. I mean, they can tell me anything, and things that I'm not excited about either, or don't really want to know much about as they get older. But they know that I'm a safe place and that I won't react. They know that if they have to tell me something and say they did something not so great, maybe they tried something they're not supposed to try, wink, wink. But they know I'm a safe place, that they can come and we can actually have a conversation, that they're not going to be like, okay, go to your room, you're grounded. So I think that I've kept the door open. I try not to judge, and if I need to, I take a minute before I say anything. But I think that's the biggest thing, is to be able to listen and keep the door of communication open. That is huge, because teens go through a lot. I mean, all kids go through a lot, and they need a safe person that they can talk to. And if you're not that safe person, that could be okay. But they also know that I'm okay, that if my daughter needs to talk to my friend's mom instead, they know I'm okay with that. So I think that's what's really been great. And I think the other thing is that I just enjoy them as people. I'm not saying I'm their best friend. I don't want to be their friend, but I enjoy what they enjoy. We always find something that's within common ground between the two of us that we can enjoy together. And I like them as people. I want to hang out with them.
Amazing. Do you have any fun family traditions that you would like to share?
Oh, fun family traditions. Let's see. There's so many, but here's one that we started, and it's just been so fun. We call it the Book of Life. So I grew up Jewish. I married somebody who's half. So he celebrates both, like he's half Jewish, half Catholic. And so we had to like merge our religions a little bit, and we became much more spiritual. So we developed this tradition called the Book of Life, because one of the holidays that we celebrate is all about that. In the beginning of the year, the Book of Life opens, and then there's a point where the Book of Life closes, and anything written in that book is for the year. And so we created our own books of life. So every September, the holiday is Rosh Hashanah, we just take literally whatever we want. It could be paper that we've cut in half. It could be more extravagant stuff. And we color the front. Everybody makes their own book, and we call it the Book of Life. And we put the year on it. We open it up. And for the week before it closes, because it's about a week before it's going to close, for a whole week, we write things that we can improve on in ourselves to make ourselves like better people. So these aren't necessarily like, I want to be fit or anything. It's more about, being a good person and how we can improve ourselves. And we just write a list. And we've started this since, the kids were really young. I think my sons honestly said, no more biting. And then we close it. And it's become such a fun tradition that we met and made up that now we tell people about it. And there are people making books of life all over the place. And it's just so exciting. So I think that's one of our most fun, and everybody loves doing it.
And do you share with each other what you have written?
Yeah. So first night we'll make the covers, and then over the week we write in it. And then at the end of the week, before we close our books, we go around the table and we share. And actually, I should say, before we start our books of life, before we actually make the covers, we look at our old books of life and we say, oh, look at all these things that we put down last time. And actually, I have accomplished those things, and I, feel better about myself for doing those things. And so we look at those, and then we write them, and it's just so much fun, and we keep them. So I have like a drawer full of books of life.
That's an amazing way to store memories.
Yeah.
I love that. I will steal the idea.
Life. Yeah. You don't have to celebrate Rosh Hashanah. You can do it anytime or without anything. It's inspiring. And for me, it makes us feel really spiritual about the holiday, because we're really doing something that really feeds our soul, and we're sharing it. And it's great. We has invited friends over to make books of life, that do not celebrate or anything like that. They, they do it together now. It's so cute.
Yes, it's cute. There is a question I like to ask. If you could address moms around the world and give them one parenting advice, what would it be?
One parenting advice. Oh gosh, that's a good one. I would say give yourself pause, take a breath. Know that you're doing the best you can. And I think that it's okay to be messy. It's okay not to have all the answers. And it's okay to share that with your kids. I mean, when you ask me, having this relationship with my teens, my kids know when I don't know. I freely share. And I have said to them over and over again, well, this is the first time I'm a mom of a teen, so I'm learning with you. So I think it's okay. And I think it helps them realize that we're not these perfect beings and that we're human. And that makes them feel human too, and okay to make mistakes along the way. So yeah, take a pause. You're doing a good job, and it's okay to be messy and make mistakes.
That's incredible advice. I so needed to hear that. Is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
Once again, going back to this law of attraction stuff and just that positive mindset, I think it's such an important thing that can really change your perspective. And if you can give that gift to your kids as well, it's amazing. But I definitely think it's something that needs to start with you first and then modeling it for your children. I think that's what I'd like to say.
Such a good conversation. Thank you so much. Why don't you share with everyone where they connect with you and learn more from you?
Yeah, you can find me. I have a website called reallifemomz.com, and on there you'll find links to my social media and also links to my podcast episodes. So yeah, check it out. Real Life Momz. It's just moms talking to moms about all sorts of things. So I'd love for you guys to visit. Thank you for listening to this special episode. The law of attraction is powerful, but it needs to begin with you. And remember that we can all be abundant. There is truly enough for everyone.